Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're going to be diving into what makes Australia such a popular place to live. You've put together a really interesting set of sources for us to go through, including some government reports and some articles. And I think they really capture the heart of Australian life.
I'm really interested in seeing how these sources frame Australia in terms of quality of life. You know, it's known for consistently ranking really high on global livability indexes.
Yeah, that's a good place to start, I think. And to understand what makes Australia so special, today, we need to go back to its roots, to its cultural foundations.
For sure. I mean, we have to acknowledge Aboriginal Australians, their connection to the land. They are the caretakers of one of the oldest living cultures in the world, dating back at least 60,000 years.
60,000 years. Wow, that's mind-blowing. I'm really interested to learn more about, their traditions and how they've managed to preserve their culture for so long.
It's really interesting. It's not just about survival, their culture, It's deeply connected to the land. They've got sophisticated belief systems, rituals, ceremonies. They have a really profound understanding of the natural world.
Yeah. And, I was reading, they were amazingly ingenious, too. I mean,
Yeah.
Did you know that there's archaeological evidence that suggests that they were the first bakers of bread?
Yeah.
It predates the Egyptians by thousands of years.
Really? Yeah, that's a testament to their knowledge and resourcefulness. And, we should also mention the impact of European colonization on Indigenous Australians and the ongoing journey of reconciliation.
Yeah, definitely. Events like the 1967 referendum, the Mabo decision, and then the national apology in 2008. I mean, those were huge milestones, but there's still a lot of work to be done.
Absolutely. It's an ongoing process that requires, a lot of understanding, empathy, and a commitment to addressing the systemic inequalities that still exist.
Right. And despite everything they've been through, Indigenous Australians have shown incredible resilience. They continue to contribute so much to Australian society. The arts, media, sports, business.
It's really inspiring to see their culture thriving and evolving. It really shapes the identity of modern Australia.
Yeah. And speaking of modern Australia, it's amazing to see how the country has become this vibrant, multicultural place.
It really is. Immigrants from nearly 200 countries have made Australia their home. It's this amazing kaleidoscope of languages, customs, and traditions. Did you know over 30% of Australia's population was born overseas?
Wow, that's a lot. I mean, I knew Australia was diverse, but I didn't realize the numbers were quite that high.
Yeah.
With such a diverse population, how does Australia manage to keep things, harmonious? How do they maintain that social cohesion?
That's a question a lot of countries struggle with, but Australia seems to have found a way to do it well. They have a very welcoming and inclusive environment. It helps people from all backgrounds feel like they belong.
I've heard Australians are known for being pretty laid back and friendly. Is that just a stereotype, or is there some truth to that?
Oh, it's not just a stereotype. There's a genuine warmth and openness in Australian culture. I mean, their casual greeting day and their willingness to lend a helping hand, which, by the way, they call mateship.
Mateship, what's that?
Oh, mateship. Well, it's more than just friendship. It's this deep cultural value that emphasizes loyalty, camaraderie, looking out for one another. It's about sticking together no matter what.
That sounds like a great foundation for a strong community.
Absolutely. And it's a value that really permeates Australian society. It contributes to their high levels of social trust and well-being.
It's starting to make sense to me why Australia consistently ranks so highly on those livability indexes. It's really an interesting mix. They've got these ancient roots and modern multiculturalism, and all of it's connected by this sense of mateship. But, we can't forget about their amazing natural environment.
Oh, you're so right. The landscape is just incredible. From the outback to those vast red deserts, and then you've got lush rainforests, pristine coastlines. It's like stepping into different worlds all within the same country.
Yeah, and the wildlife. The report mentions something like 80% of mammals, reptiles, frogs, and even flowering plants are unique to Australia. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's a testament to the country's biodiversity and just how long it's been isolated, and to protect all that natural heritage, they've got this huge network of national parks and protected areas.
Speaking of protected areas, I was really intrigued by the Gondwana rainforests. Those are UNESCO World Heritage listed. What's so special about them?
Imagine stepping back in time, like millions of years. The Gondwana rainforests have got ancient ferns and conifers. Some of the oldest living plant species on Earth are there. It's like a living museum of prehistoric plant life.
I'm getting wanderlust just thinking about it. And It's not just natural wonders that make Australia so appealing. I mean, their cities are consistently ranked as some of the most livable in the world. Melbourne, Sydney, Adelaide, they're always at the top of the list.
And it's interesting because it's not just one thing. It's a combination of factors. Low crime rates, great healthcare, well-developed infrastructure, a vibrant cultural scene.
It sounds like they have a perfect balance between having all the amenities of a city, but also having this relaxed lifestyle. Let's break it down a little bit. What specifically makes life so good in Australian cities?
Well, first of all, they really prioritize safety and security. People feel safe walking around at night. The communities are peaceful.
Yeah, that feeling of safety must be really valuable, especially for families with kids.
Definitely. It contributes to this peace of mind, and it allows people to just focus on enjoying life. And speaking of enjoying life, Australians are great at making the most of their leisure time.
I've heard they love their outdoor activities. Is that a big part of their lifestyle?
Oh, yeah, for sure. They've got this strong connection to nature, and they love being outdoors. Whether it's surfing at Bondi Beach, or hiking in the Blue Mountains, or even just barbecuing with their mates in the park, It's just part of their daily life.
It sounds like a healthy and active lifestyle.
It is. And that focus on well-being isn't just about physical activity. They've got this amazing coffee culture, passion for food and wine, thriving arts and music scene.
Okay, I think I have a serious case of FOMO now. Australia has it all. Great community, incredible nature, vibrant cities, a lifestyle that's both relaxed and active. But can they back it up with a good economy and job opportunities?
That's a great question. And that's exactly what we're going to explore in the next part of our deep dive.
Perfect. I can't wait to learn more about the economic side of things.
Welcome back to our deep dive into Australia. Before we jump into their economy, I think it's worth mentioning another thing that contributes to their high quality of life. Their healthcare system. It's world class.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I almost forgot about healthcare. It's so important for well-being. I'd love to hear how Australia handles it.
Well, they have this universal healthcare system. It's called Medicare. And it basically ensures that all citizens and permanent residents have access to affordable medical care. It's something they're really proud of, and it's a big reason why they have such a high life expectancy and, good overall health.
So how does Medicare actually work? Is it like a single-payer system where the government covers everything?
It's a little bit more complicated than that. Medicare provides free or subsidized treatment in public hospitals, and then they also subsidize visits to general practitioners and specialists.
So it's a mix of public and private healthcare.
Exactly. And a lot of Australians also choose to have private health insurance. That gives them access to a wider range of services and sometimes shorter wait times for things like elective procedures.
Makes sense. It gives people more options, right? More flexibility.
Yeah.
But what about prescription drugs? Does Medicare cover those?
Yeah, they have a separate program for that called the Pharmaceutical Benefits Scheme.
Yeah.
What it does is it subsidizes the cost of a lot of essential medications, so it helps to make sure people can afford the medicine they need.
Sounds like they've really thought of everything. No wonder Australians are so happy with their healthcare system.
It's definitely a system that prioritizes making sure things are fair and accessible, that everyone has access to good care, no matter how much money they make or what their background is.
I love that. It fits right in with their values of fairness and a fair go that we were talking about earlier. But let's not forget how big Australia is and the challenges of providing healthcare to those remote communities, right?
Oh, you're absolutely right. And that's where the Royal Flying Doctor Service comes in. It's such an iconic Australian institution. They provide medical services to people living in the outback and other remote areas.
Oh, I've heard of them. They use planes and other vehicles to get to people who wouldn't have access to healthcare otherwise. It's pretty amazing, isn't it?
It is. They see a patient every 2 minutes. They do everything from emergency evacuations to regular checkups, even delivering babies.
Wow, that's incredible. They really are lifesavers, aren't they? They really embody that spirit of mateship, going above and beyond to help people.
For sure. They play a vital role in making sure that all Australians, no matter where they live, can get quality health care.
Okay, so we've established that Australia has a fantastic healthcare system that really contributes to their quality of life. But now let's get to their economy. You mentioned earlier that they've got this really robust economy that powers the whole country. Tell me more.
Well, Australia has this incredibly resilient and diverse economy. They've consistently outperformed many other developed countries. Before the COVID-19 pandemic, they had 28 years of consecutive economic growth, and then they bounced back really well after that.
28 years. That's an amazing record. What's the secret? What's driving their economic success?
It's a bunch of things, really. They have a ton of natural resources, a very skilled workforce, a stable political system, and they're very business friendly. Plus, they're strategically located in the Asia-Pacific region, so they have access to some of the world's fastest growing economies.
It sounds like they're in a great position to take advantage of all the global trends, right?
Yeah.
But let's dive a little deeper. What are some of the specific industries that are really driving their economy?
Well, their economy is much more diverse than people realize, which is one of the reasons they're so resilient. Mining and resources are a big part of it, of course. Their exports of iron ore, coal, and natural gas are huge.
Yeah, I knew Australia was big on mining, but what else is going on? What other industries are contributing to their success?
Agriculture is another one, big one. They export a lot of wheat, beef, wool, and they also have a really sophisticated services sector, finance, tourism, education.
Hold on, education.
Yeah.
I never would have thought of education as a major economic driver.
Well, it might surprise you to know that education is actually their third largest export industry. Hundreds of thousands of international students come to Australia every year to study at their universities, which are world-class.
Wow. I had no idea it was such a big deal. What is it about their education system that draws so many international students?
Well, their universities have a really strong global reputation. They're known for their quality and innovation. They always rank highly in those international university rankings, and their degrees are recognized around the world.
So it's not just about exporting education, it's about building a global network of skilled professionals who are familiar with Australian standards, right?
Exactly. It's a smart move for building long-term partnerships, fostering international collaboration. But it's not just about attracting international students. They also invest a lot in their own domestic education system, from early childhood all the way to higher education and vocational training.
Right, that makes sense. A well-educated workforce is so important for a strong economy, especially these days. Speaking of the future, how is Australia getting ready for all the changes happening globally? How are they positioning themselves for success?
That's a good question. They're actively trying to diversify their economy, investing in innovation and technology, and focusing on industries that have high growth potential.
Can you give me some specific examples of what they're doing?
Sure. They're putting a lot of money into renewable energy and clean technologies. They want to be a leader in that transition to a low-carbon future. They're also fostering a really dynamic startup ecosystem, particularly in areas like fintech, medtech, and agtech.
Fintech, medtech, agtech, those are some really cutting-edge fields.
Yeah.
Sounds like they're embracing the digital revolution and want to be at the forefront of all those tech advancements.
Absolutely. They know that innovation is key to staying competitive, in the global economy. They're investing in research, supporting entrepreneurs, and creating an environment where new businesses can flourish.
It's really impressive how proactive they are about shaping their economic future. But, we can't forget about one of the main things that drew us to this deep dive in the first place: Australia's reputation for having a fantastic lifestyle.
You're right. We've talked about how much they love the outdoors, their relaxed and friendly culture, and their vibrant cities. But what about their arts and culture scene? How does that contribute to the whole appeal of living in Australia?
That's a great point. I'd love to hear more about that creative side of Australia.
They've got this rich and diverse arts and culture scene that reflects their history, their multiculturalism, and their creative energy.
I know they have a strong tradition of Indigenous art, but what about more contemporary art forms? What's the art scene like in their cities?
Oh, their cities are full of creative energy. World-class museums, art galleries, theaters, music venues, they showcase a huge range of artistic expressions.
So there's something for everyone, no matter what you're into.
Exactly. And then they have these fantastic festivals and events that really celebrate their cultural diversity, like the Sydney Festival, the Melbourne International Arts Festival, Wamama.
And I've heard Australians love live music. Is that true?
Oh, absolutely. Live music is a huge part of their culture. They have a thriving pub and club scene with local and international acts. And some of their music festivals, like Splendor in the Grass, Falls Festival, those are massive.
Sounds like there's always something going on in Australia. They seem to have found this balance between working hard and having a passion for life and a love for arts and culture.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and we can't forget about their love for sports.
Oh, that's right. Sport is like a national obsession in Australia. They're good at so many sports, from cricket and rugby to swimming and tennis. And they've hosted some of the biggest sporting events in the world, like the Olympics and the Cricket World Cup.
And in 2023, they're co-hosting the FIFA Women's World Cup with New Zealand, which is the biggest women's sporting event in the world.
That's right. That's a huge deal. But it's not just about elite athletes. Sport is a part of Australian culture at every level, community leagues, professional teams.
It sounds like sport is really important for bringing people together and creating that sense of national pride.
Definitely. It brings people together from all walks of life, creates a shared sense of belonging and a healthy bit of competition.
Okay, so we've covered so much. We've talked about their strong economy, their top-notch healthcare system, their vibrant arts and culture, their passion for sports, and a lifestyle that prioritizes well-being and the outdoors. No wonder everyone wants to live in Australia. But is there anything else that makes this country so unique, so appealing?
There is one more thing I think is worth mentioning, their commitment to social progress.
Oh, I'd love to hear more about that.
Australia has a long history of social reform and progressive policies. They were one of the first countries to adopt things like the secret ballot, women's suffrage, the 8-hour workday.
Wow, they were really ahead of their time on so many social issues. And does that progressive spirit still exist today?
Oh yeah, definitely. They're leaders in areas like gender equality, LGBTQ+ rights, environmental protection. They're always pushing to create a more fair and equitable society.
That's really inspiring. A country that's not afraid to embrace change and, push those boundaries. They really seem to value fairness and equality.
And that commitment to fairness extends to their immigration policies too. They've created a very welcoming and inclusive environment for people from all over the world.
That goes back to their multiculturalism and that diverse mosaic we talked about earlier, right?
Yeah.
It's amazing how all these different aspects of their society are interconnected and support each other.
Exactly. It creates this kind of positive feedback loop that contributes to their success and their high quality of life.
Australia really seems like an exceptional country. But with all these positive things, are there any challenges, any concerns that we should be aware of?
That's a great question, and one that we'll dive into in the final part of our deep dive.
Sounds good. I'm really curious to hear more about those potential challenges. Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We've spent the last 2 parts talking about all the amazing things that make Australia so great. The culture, the landscapes, that booming economy, their commitment to social progress. But every country has its challenges, right?
Oh, absolutely. No country's perfect. And Australia definitely has a few key issues they're going to have to deal with as they move forward.
So let's talk about those challenges. What are some of the biggest hurdles that Australia is facing in the 21st century?
Well, one of the most urgent issues, and it's something we see in a lot of the reports we've been looking at, is climate change. Australia is particularly vulnerable to the effects of climate change. More frequent droughts, those intense bushfires, extreme weather events, it's all becoming more common.
Yeah, I've seen the news reports about the bushfires they've had in recent years. Just devastating. Those images are really hard to see. It's clear that climate change is having a real impact on their environment and their way of life.
Exactly. And it's not just the immediate damage from these events, it's the long-term effects on things like biodiversity, water resources, agriculture. All that has to be considered too.
So how is Australia responding to this? I mean, we talked before about their investment in renewable energy, but is that enough? Are they doing enough to really deal with climate change and move towards a more sustainable future?
Well, that's a big debate in Australia right now. They've made some progress in renewable energy, but some people argue they need to do more to get away from fossil fuels, especially coal. It's a major export for them, so it's tricky.
It's that classic dilemma, right? Balancing economic interests with the need to protect the environment. But given how urgent climate change is, it seems like finding those sustainable solutions is really important for their future.
I think so too. And it's an issue that's becoming more and more important to Australians, especially the younger generations. They're the ones who are going to be dealing with the consequences down the line.
It sounds like public pressure could be a big factor in pushing for stronger climate policies. But let's shift gears a bit and talk about their economy. We've talked about how strong and diverse it is, but are there any potential threats out there?
One of big challenges for them is staying competitive in a global economy that's constantly changing. They need to keep investing in innovation, developing their workforce's skills. They have to be able to adapt to new technologies and new industries if they want to keep up.
Right. It's like they can't just rest on their laurels.
Exactly. And they also need to think about diversifying their trading partners. They're quite reliant on a few key markets, especially China, and that's become a bit of a source of tension lately.
Yeah, I've heard about some of the trade disputes between Australia and China. That's got to create some uncertainty, right? So navigating those geopolitical issues is going to be really important for their economic stability.
Absolutely. It's crucial. Building strong relationships with other important trading partners in the region, like Japan, South Korea, India, will be key for their continued economic success.
So it seems like Australia's got this balancing act to manage, right? Maintaining their existing strengths while also adapting to a changing world and figuring out those complex global relationships. But what about challenges within Australia itself? Are there any domestic issues that could affect their quality of life?
One thing that comes up a lot is the rising cost of living, especially in the big cities like Sydney and Melbourne. Housing affordability in particular has become a real worry for many Australians.
I can see why that would be a concern. When a country is seen as such a great place to live, it's natural for housing prices to go up. But that creates challenges for people trying to buy their first home, or for those who aren't earning as much.
Exactly. And it's an issue that the government is trying to tackle. They're looking at policies and programs to increase the supply of housing to help first-time buyers.
Sounds like a tricky problem to solve. But it's good that they're at least acknowledging it and looking for solutions.
They are. And another challenge that a lot of Australians care deeply about is the reconciliation process with Indigenous Australians. We've talked about some of the historical injustices. Despite some progress, there are still big gaps, when it comes to health, education, and economic opportunities.
Yeah, we touched on that earlier. It's clear that achieving true reconciliation and fixing those systemic inequalities is going to take a lot of time and effort.
It will. It requires really listening to Indigenous Australians, understanding their point of view, and working together to build a society that's fair to everyone.
So it sounds like Australia is facing a whole bunch of challenges, from climate change and economic issues to social problems like housing affordability and Indigenous reconciliation. But even with all of that, they have a lot going for them.
They really do. They've got a strong base to build on: that resilient economy, well-educated workforce, a stable political system, and a culture that values fairness and mateship.
It's inspiring to see how they're tackling these issues head on, with that spirit of innovation and a real willingness to change with the times. I think this deep dive has given us a much better understanding of the opportunities and the complexities that Australia faces, and I'm feeling pretty optimistic about their future.
Me too. It's a good reminder that no country is perfect, but with a dedication to progress and a willingness to face their challenges, nations can create a brighter future for all their citizens.
And that wraps up our deep dive into Australia. I want to leave our listeners with one final thought. Given everything we've discussed about Australia, their strengths, their challenges, what role do you think they might play in shaping the 21st century?
That's a great question. It will be fascinating to see how they navigate all of this and contribute to the global stage. Thanks for joining us on this journey.
And thank you for your insights. It's been a pleasure exploring Australia with you. Until next time, keep diving deep.